The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, of Phoenix Suns podcast, back after a break, and Kevin Durant is still on the Phoenix Suns. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How you doing, Sam?
Hey, I'm back. Was on vacation over the weekend, but had to check my phone a million times. I wasn't in Discord. Apologies to the people in Discord. I was not there. Y'all noticed that I wasn't there because I saw you chatting about it. But had to check the phone. Had a big NBA trade not related to the Phoenix Suns this weekend.
Yeah.
That we probably need to briefly touch on. And here we go. I think there is a non-zero chance, Mike. It is Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Phoenix time, and there is certainly a non-zero chance that we get to live react to a KD trade in the next hour.
God.
While we are recording this. It is possible. It is possible.
Yeah,
We've never done that.
And then start over. Start the podcast over when that happens. Yeah.
On the throwback, were you recording a podcast live when the Chris Paul trade broke?
I was, yes.
But not with me.
With Dan Favale, yeah.
With Dan Favale, that is crazy.
Yeah,
so it could always happen again.
That was more of a quiet, like, I think something's happening, Dan, type of reaction. Because it was Dan and not you. I think you and I would have probably been screaming had that been different. But yeah, it's been sort of a roller coaster of slop in the last week or so, where Gambo is sort of holding the emotions of an entire fan base in his hands as he slowly drips more and more information that I would say over the last few days for a lot of Suns fans has now lowered their expectation for what a trade is going to be for Kevin Durant. Do you agree with that?
For the casual, I don't know if I want to use the word casual, but for a certain section of Suns fans who have not been like week by week following this, like we have for the past few months, yeah, maybe he has been lowering their expectations.
Oh, I even think that just after the Desmond Bane trade, which we can talk about, there was like this glimmer of, that's what stars are going for still? 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane? Kevin Durant's better than that.
Yeah, 4 first-round picks and a swap. By the way, that Orlando Magic, all reliable, that we used over and over again in our trade proposals for the past couple months, they get a guy who I think is going to be an absolutely incredible fit in that offense. Of course, at what cost? The cost being 4 first-round picks and a pick swap. And I don't know, did you have any initial take on that one? Just that it was too much?
We were definitely right about them making a trade. No, I don't even know that it was too much necessarily, because KCP was awful. He was just like really, really bad. So getting off that contract alone, and a few more years left on that contract, would have cost them a first-round pick at the very least if they're trading him to a bad team. Trading him to a team who knows what the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be next year. I'm kind of surprised that they did this move. Not based on the amount that was given to them, just because, like, what are they going to do? Are they the only thing that makes sense for them, not to get too far off track here, is if they're going to completely pivot and just be bad while the West is a bit of a bloodbath and wait it out the way the Suns did when the Warriors were at the top, during Devin Booker's early years. But it doesn't seem like they're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they could double down and pay Jaren Jackson Jr. what he wants in an extension and just build around him and Ja without kind of making any other major moves. But I think you're right. That's just not a team that really competes in the Western Conference. And further to that point, it's kind of why I understand Orlando doing what they did. If they were a Western Conference team and they thought that they could compete with Franz, Paolo, and Desmond Bane, none of those guys really being top 20 NBA players, they would be fucking crazy, right? But because they're in the East and the East is so wide open and the Bucks are kind of not going anywhere and the Sixers aren't going anywhere and Tatum's out for the season, like, I get it. I just do.
No, yeah, I agree.
So
I for Orlando,
it's not,
like I
it's
actually
not
think,
terrible.
I think it's a really good fit, actually, because you can still play Jalen Suggs in that starting lineup. You have Desmond Bane as your shooting guard, and then the two main stars of that team, and then one of their centers can start, Goga or Wagner when he's healthy again. And they still need shooting. One of those two still needs to shoot, I think, for them to be a star, but their defense is going to be awesome, and Bane can create. He can attack closeouts. He can play on and off the ball, and he's going to be their best shooter by a mile. Unless, of course, he gets there and stops being able to shoot the way KCP did. But he's younger. I think probably going to be more reliable when it comes to a fit on that team. But what he was traded for, factoring in getting off of the KCP contract, I thought for a second, maybe the Suns could get multiple first-round picks for Kevin Durant. Like, I'm not even saying they can get a bunch of picks. Like, I'm not saying they'll get 5 because KD's better than Bane. I know KD's age. He's 36. He's going to be 37 next season. I understand that he only has 1 year left on his contract, but most likely any team that he's going to is going to expect him to be there more than 1 year, even if he doesn't agree to it right away. An extension's still better than free agency for Kevin Durant's sake. It just is. Like, at this point of his career, extending is smarter. But I don't know, the more we have learned since then, the more slop that's sort of been trickled out to us, it seems like the Suns are not getting the types of offers that include multiple first-round picks. The expectations I think that the Suns have for this trade make it really difficult, I think, even for other teams to put together a trade that really, really works, because the Suns are saying we want to be good now and have some flexibility for the future, meaning we want good young players, we want a pick or two, and we want players that can make Devin Booker actually want to stay here. It's asking a lot for these teams, and I don't think that they're not getting anything that has pushed it over the edge so far.
Yeah, right, sure. They're not.
And I'm not
so
sure,
far.
I'm not sure exactly what to expect from this. And we can talk about the teams individually, but what do you think?
Well, I think we have to, because the way I approach it now is on a case-by-case basis, like in terms of addressing both of those checks that you're talking about, like making them better next year. Certain of these teams can give the Suns role players who actually accomplish that goal. Again, we'll get into them in a second, but like then others just don't. Like a package of Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson just doesn't achieve that. It's just salary. Or Harrison Barnes and Keldon Johnson is just salary, right? Like a lot of these packages, to speak to the other end of things, because I do agree, obviously there have been some Suns fans that have been delusional throughout this process. But on the other hand, I still think you look at a lot of the national punditry in this conversation, and there are some ludicrous expectations on the other side, almost to the point where it's like people talking about the Suns should get nothing in this deal and they should just let KD go wherever he wants to go out of the goodness of their hearts. And it's almost like, at a certain point, I know they're not going to do this. They are not going to keep KD. A couple people have brought up, well, could they just run it back and keep KD? They're not going to do that.
I would say Brian Windhorst said maybe the Suns are considering even doing that if the trades aren't good enough. Which sounds like a leverage play, and that's sort of what we're waiting for. A bunch of leverage plays, yeah.
Exactly. It's so Gambo is making his leverage plays on one side for the Suns, but then you have the Brian Windhorsts too. And to me, those are
Brian Windhorst, yeah.
Not even
you have
equally.
Those
Miami
are more
annoying.
media who Pat Riley just uses their mouths like a sock puppet. We know they exist, and that happens there. And then, of course, other guys. I saw one of the Minnesota reporters sort of co-wrote the piece regarding a potential KD trade for The Athletic, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess he has sources within the Minnesota Timberwolves, but like the way that reporting has evolved around trades, we've talked about this a lot, especially on our Patreon, but it's not even reporting anymore. It's like something different. It's like this weird game of negotiation that's playing out via the public. And I've questioned, like, how much does it even matter? Like, do these teams care what Gambo says? Like, is Pat Riley going, well, Gambo said, or, Windhorst said they might keep him. Like, I don't know that they even notice or care, but it sure feels like there's a game being played by all these reporters. Let's talk about the teams individually. And I think an important place to start, when we talk about leverage here, I think the most important place to start when it comes to leverage is who Kevin Durant has publicly essentially said through Shams Charania who he would be willing to sign extensions with, because those are the teams I think you have to sort of start with. Whether or not the Suns are going to pick one of those 3 teams to trade him to will be a part of this conversation, of course. But the 3 teams that Shams Charania has said were Houston, Miami, and San Antonio. So
You
2
operate-
Texas teams and Miami.
Yeah, the dude hates income taxes. What can I say? I understand. When you're making $50 million and you don't have to pay income tax on it versus, say, in Minnesota. I mean, there's the weather aspect too. But, like, how many millions saved is that at that scale?
It's a lot, yeah.
$5 million? $10 million?
I also
it's
think
it's
he
a lot of money.
he probably doesn't want to live somewhere cold, too, it seems like.
I mean, I've heard that argument too. I think that's a less compelling argument than the income tax thing. It's just a little funny that it's Florida and Texas teams. But yeah, look, you operate from a baseline assumption, obviously, that those are the teams. Any team that Kevin Durant publicly says he is willing to extend with is going to be a team that has more to gain and therefore also more to lose in these negotiations, right? Like the teams that are willing to put forward probably the most compelling offer. If I'm San Antonio fans continue to put up this front and act like, oh, we don't need KD, we're fine. Even though Wemby's health is in a precarious position. Nobody really likes De'Aaron Fox at this point in his career, it feels like, you know. They lucked by some miracle into the ability to draft Dylan Harper. And now you can trade for Kevin Durant without even giving up that second pick, Dylan Harper, and really get the best of both worlds. San Antonio can so easily put together a package here, Mike, where they get the best of both worlds, a team that can compete next to Victor Wembanyama right now and be in like the conference finals next year if everything plays right, and not sacrifice their future by doing so. And I think for San Antonio fans, potentially, to hear KD's willing to not only go to you, but extend with you, like, they should do... I know I'm a Suns fan, so I know it's very easy for me to say this, but our ask is not that high, in my opinion. They should really do whatever it takes to get... If not Kevin Durant, like, go and get Jaylen Brown. Giannis, I don't think, is on the table. I think that's a pipe dream.
Jaylen Brown isn't either.
They need to go and get someone. You need to get someone to help Victor Wembanyama next year. Because his prime... It is no guarantee that he is going to be healthy for the next 10 years. It's no guarantee that Victor Wembanyama is going to be playing basketball by the age of 30.
He missed the last part of this season due to something that nobody anticipated. You just never know. And I think it's not a coincidence that San Antonio is trying to speed this up a little bit. They're aware of that as well. I it's just not a coincidence. So we'll see what they end up doing. The what we understand right now is the Suns appear. Let's actually start with Miami a little bit. I'm glad you talked about San Antonio, but let's talk about Miami because we have a little bit from Gambo regarding them. Now, what I heard, and I could just say it here now because it seems like something is out there, is Miami was pushing really hard for Kevin Durant. Miami doesn't have a ton of assets unless they include a bunch of picks. Really, and I've also heard they want cap space next year, so it's possible they wouldn't immediately extend Kevin Durant. I'm not sure exactly what their plan would be there, but assuming they want to keep a team with Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and Kevin Durant, we're starting with the rest of what they have. Wiggins is like the obvious salary that would have to come back in a trade, and their best young asset right now is Kel'el Ware. Now, those are the 2 players that Gambo brought up. Now, you can throw other things in and around that. Jovic, Duncan Robinson, picks, if you want to figure out the picks. Jaquez, if you want to figure that out. Jaquez didn't have the greatest second year. But the 2 players I think that you would build the trade around if they're really trying to get him is Wiggins and Ware. And what we heard from Gambo is the Suns don't like either player, it sounds like. They don't believe that Wiggins plays hard. And Ware had a lot of effort issues similar to DeAndre Ayton, out of college, has 1 year in the NBA, didn't play the whole season, got most of his minutes post Jimmy Butler trade, played well towards the end of the season.
Yeah, played well, and I'll let you finish, but then I do have things to say on Kel'el Ware.
Yeah, and I think from the Suns' perspective, if they're trying to build what they consider the future culture of this team to be, and they're going to hold themselves to that, which I give them credit if this is true and if they actually do it, right? They don't deserve the credit unless they do it. But if they're trying to build the culture and they're talking about, no, this guy has effort issues, we've done the background work on it, we don't trust that he's going to be a hard enough worker to play hard and work hard every single game, and they're saying no to that, I understand it, but I didn't watch a lot of the post Jimmy Butler Miami Heat to have incredibly strong opinions about Khalil Ware, but you look at the stats and there's something there statistically. And I'm stuck between going, yeah, I don't want another guy who's only going to work half the time. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the guys that has the most potential based on what we've seen that could be available for Kevin Durant. And I'm sort of stuck between those two things right now.
Well, I was going to bring that up because I actually wonder about his potential. I go back and forth on Khalil Ware, and I'm like you. I didn't watch a lot of the Heat post Jimmy Butler. And motor is one of those things that shows up. Like sometimes guys with bad motor have good stats. It just happens. Especially with big men. You know, Khalil Ware's a good rebounder. But so is DeAndre Ayton, and he had motor issues that showed up outside of the rebounding, right? So it's not always something that's instantly apparent. I like Khalil Ware. I do. And I definitely think that partially what Gambo is saying is a leverage play, right? It's a little bit of a hit piece of, we don't like your guys anyway. In fact, we heard that they're actually booty. And so, you know.
Soft.
Up and soft, so up your offer.
He used that word from what I've heard. I haven't.
The guy that I really don't care about is Andrew Wiggins, to be entirely honest. I even said, I think on Twitter, like, give us Terry Rozier, who sucks. He definitely sucks. Instead of Wiggins, if it means we can get more picks in the trade. That gives us an additional first or 2 first-round picks, then I'll do that. But you need to get something. It would probably
be easier to reroute someone like Rozier who's expiring and attaching picks to if you're trying to reroute a player. But Wiggins to me is small forward Bradley Beal a little bit.
100%.
You know, except
100%.
that he did win a title. So there is 1 year with Andrew Wiggins where he was an important player who played well on a team that won a title. Whether or not the Suns could get that out of him, I think is a fair question for them to be asking, and maybe tells on themselves a little bit about how they feel about the team next year as well.
When I hear that Wiggins is soft, I say, yeah, no shit. I've watched Andrew Wiggins for 10 years. So like that doesn't bother me. When I hear Ware is soft, I assume there's a little bit of leverage play in there as well. You know, just digging through the numbers. First of all, what you think Khalil Ware's potential is really hinges on the shooting, because he just didn't take that many threes last year, but he did shoot them, and he did shoot a reasonable percentage. And he also was a good mid-range shooter. So if the good mid-range shooting extends out to being... What was
his final percentage, though?
I'll pull it up. Like 32%.
Yeah.
On 1.7 threes. But good mid-range shooting, 7 foot, legitimate 7 foot frame, legitimate like 7'5" wingspan. There is reason to believe that if he lives up to his potential, he is a guy who can space the floor, shoot a lot of threes, give you 10 rebounds a game. I don't know how much playmaking he can really give you. I don't think anything at all. But, you know, what is interesting to me, the reason I believe that the Suns are actually interested in Khalil Ware, regardless of what Gambo says on the radio, is he played some power forward this year, too. He didn't just play center. And
I think you can say that the last 2.5 months of the season was the Miami Heat experimenting with what they can do to potentially play Bam Adebayo with another big. That's what they spend the last 2 months of the seasons doing.
And I literally looked at those numbers, and they were good. When Khalil Ware played, and you know, Ware played most of his season at center, and you know, when you're a rookie playing center, defense is difficult. It doesn't come to you immediately. He can block shots, but I don't know if all the instincts are there to be like a lockdown center. Plus, his frame is big, but it's not like, you know, most centers he would go against on any given night were bigger than him. But when he played power forward, which is 10% of his playing time, and Bam Adebayo played center, the Heat had a 106 defensive rating, which is elite. Now, a lot of that is Bam Adebayo is also a really good defender, and it's probably easy. It's probably easy for any big next to Bam Adebayo to look like a pretty good defense, but it's not nothing that Ware was able to play those minutes next to Bam Adebayo at power forward, where he had to be a little bit more of a spacer, and they had an elite defense to boot. And like I just said, he's a good rebounder. He is. So if Gregory was serious about what he said at his intro press conference, we like the way that more teams are playing two bigs, right? Play a modern offense with modern spacing, but two bigs. Yeah, it makes sense why you'd be interested in this guy, because if he hits his potential, if he hits his ceiling, that's exactly what he's going to be. He's not necessarily going to be a career center, although he definitely has the size to play it most of the time. So I think they're interested. I don't think he's the best like centerpiece in any deal that you could get back, though, when you compare it to a lot of these other teams.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I think that a lot of Suns fans have sort of been locked in on where is the young guy that is the best potential young guy that they could get. And honestly, maybe he is. I don't know what we'll talk about Houston next, I think. But I don't know what Houston is actually offering. But I think there are other players that could potentially be better. The one thing I will say about Ware is the size. He's the big that could be there available to the Suns that has high level potential. And there's value in that. I'm not going to deny that there's value in that. But I also don't think it's sort of a guarantee that he's going to be great. I don't think there's enough for us to know whether or not he's going to be great yet.
The
value in that is that
mediocre.
He's going to be on a low contract for a few years that the Suns fully control and then can decide his future based on the time that he's played with the Suns.
He could end up being very mediocre, but yeah, like you're saying, the advantage is like Jabari Smith could end up being mediocre his entire career too. But
he's already done more in the NBA.
But that's
he's
what
older,
I mean.
so it's fair.
He's entering year 4, so you have to extend him next year. I want to ask you, just in a vacuum, of these young guys, right? Or just of these young assets that could come back to the Suns. You've got Toronto. I'm not going to go into the full packages now, but Toronto, we know, can give us the 9th pick. They can offer the 9th pick. Houston, we know, can offer the 10th pick. San Antonio can offer the 14th pick. They could also obviously offer the 2nd pick, but let's be realistic and say they're not going to do that. So you've got 9, 10, and 14 right there. Those are obvious. You rank them in order of where they are. Compared to those assets, those late lottery picks that could be like the central building block of a trade, I just want to ask you about a couple of guys. Would you rate Kel'el Ware as more or less valuable than a pick in that range?
I think
9 to 14.
That's a great question. I think having a pick that's in the top 10, I would probably rate a little bit more valuable than Kel'el Ware.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat.
It is a little bit. It's a dangerous game to play in that Kel'el Ware has played in the NBA and has had some success in the NBA. So you can look at that and sort of understand what that is and try to build off of that. Whereas, you're looking at the draft and going, they could be anything. They could be Kel'el Ware, and like maybe they could be not that. And that's true. But yeah, at some point you do have to rely on your scouting. And if the scouting is going to be a problem, the Suns are going to have problems for years and years and years. But they have had good draft picks in the past. I know the scouting has probably changed over time. And you sort of think that a player that was picked where he was in that draft class that wasn't very good compared to this draft class, which is supposed to be a little deep, especially in the lottery, at least with the types of players that could be potential role players, I feel like I would be more confident rolling the dice than I would be in Ware. And I admit that could be wrong. I think that could be wrong. You're going to run out of coffee at some point, so you might as well order some now. Take out your phone, go to your computer, go to alchemyroaster.com. That's alchemyroaster.com and buy some coffee now. Alchemy Roast is a Metro Phoenix-based coffee roaster that focuses on the transformational process of coffee from seed to cup. They're about more than just coffee. They're about passion, dedication, and community. They're a small batch roastery committed to sourcing the finest beans and mastering the art of the roast. And they do it ethically. That's right, ethical beans. You can get 10% off your coffee order now by using the promo code TIMELINE at alchemyroaster.com. That's TIMELINE at alchemyroaster.com in the promo code section of your checkout. Get some great coffee, support a local Phoenix business that makes excellent coffee, and support us on the podcast by using that promo code. That's alchemyroaster.com, promo code TIMELINE for the best coffee you can get.
Okay. I have a few other ones to ask you about. Just real quick, round table. Again, we don't know what Houston is offering. I assume Jabari Smith is somewhere in that package. Jalen Green maybe gets routed. We'll talk about that. Reed Shepherd?
I think it's actually fair to maybe assume. I think if Jabari Smith was in it, maybe it would be done already. But I don't know.
If Reed Shepherd is on the table, do you value him? He was, the third overall pick last year, but barely played. Is
the third overall pick is actually kind of a problem with him in that he makes like $10 million a year.
He does. He makes a decent amount of money.
And he's not that good. He's not good enough to make that amount of money. But I do think that if he's included in a trade, like, I don't know that he would play on the Suns, but if he's included in a trade and the Suns are trying to find a third team to bring in, that salary is more valuable on a team that's trying to be bad next year that could actually take the risk on seeing how good Reed Shepherd is and playing him a lot more. So
I think
if you're trying to find a third team,
I think the Suns straight up could take the risk on Reed Shepherd, and assuming that they're not taking back Jalen Green, who would eat up backcourt minutes, right? If there's a Houston trade, I think the Suns could give Reed Shepherd 15, 20 minutes a game consistently next year. Why not?
Well, no,
who's going to stand in his way? Monte Morris?
No, I agree that they could. I also think the value as a trade is higher. Just from a general perspective.
You value him more or less than a late lottery pick. Again, I'm going to keep going back to these late lottery picks, that 9, 10, 14, the idea that they can get one of those.
I think I would rather have another pick than him. I think the salary is too much. Yeah, it's a good question.
This next one should be obvious, but maybe not. Stephon Castle.
Castle, I would rather have Castle. Yeah.
I would rather have Castle too. Castle is, to me, still the guy. And I know we've talked about how he won a Mickey Mouse Rookie of the Year, and that is true.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep saying it because it's funny.
Yeah.
But the difference
I said it on the radio the other day, yeah.
Did you? You said Mickey Mouse?
Yes.
Nice. So to me, the difference between Castle and Ware is, Ware had a better shooting. I know we just said he shot 32% on not that many threes. He did have a slightly better 3-point shooting season than Castle, in the sense that Castle, if he doesn't reach his potential, it's because he's got a long way to go as a jump shooter. A long way to go. But he's only 1 year in, so you've got a few years to evaluate him, same as Ware. He's already a good defender. He's already a guy who can get to the rim at will. He averaged 6 free throws per 36 as a rookie, and wasn't even a high usage player. He spent a decent amount of time on the ball, don't get me wrong, but he's not like the hub of their offense. And he's getting to the line a lot. So he's already a good slasher. He's already a good defender. He's already a good playmaker for his position too, if you watch his tape. The only thing that would unlock, that he still has to do to unlock his ceiling, is become a reasonable NBA shooter. And of course, there's a chance that doesn't happen. But if it does happen, I think there's no doubt Stephon Castle is a future
star
all-star.
potential. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
whereas
so that's
he's
why
still
he's
valuable
number one.
even without that. Yeah, exactly. I agree. There's ball skills. He's uber athletic. Ball skills meaning he can handle the ball, he can pass the ball, he's incredibly quick with it when he's dribbling. And obviously there's the finishing that he's really great at, drawing contact. And tons of potential, like you said, high upside potential as a defender. I think he could be pretty good as early as next year. Like on the Suns, you give him the starting spot and you just see what happens. But yeah, that's also why he maybe isn't available. It's really interesting position for the San Antonio Spurs to be in, where the best player that is available at the pick that they have, it plays the same position. And maybe they try to trade back and get multiple picks and use one of those picks to give to the Suns instead.
They could do that.
Yeah.
Remember that was one of the Jazz trades that I did, where they traded down.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember the exact formulation of it
but
anymore.
Then they keep Castle,
Suns,
I guess, is the thing. Yeah.
Well, the Suns got the 5th pick in that one, but it was like the Jazz moved up to number 2, and the Suns got 5 and Markkanen. And again, I don't know if the Jazz are actually interested in playing ball here, but that's totally something that the Spurs could try to do, is trade back.
Yeah.
I got one more wild card for you real quick.
Okay.
We talked about Castle, we talked about Shepherd, we talked about Ware. Rudy Gobert as the centerpiece in a vacuum of a trade. 33 years old, 3 years left on his contract. Is he more or less valuable than a late lottery pick?
Rudy Gobert, I think, is very much on the downswing of his career. Obviously going to be valuable next season. And we brought him up as the highest potential floor raiser of anyone that the Suns could trade for. And honestly, that might be enough for the people who are pulling the strings on the Suns right now. That might be enough for them to want to make that trade. But at a certain point, he's going to be bad and making a lot of money. And that, to me, I think is a little bit scary. I understand the value in trying to build a team that is good with Devin Booker next year. But I also think that you kind of have to think about a team that could be good for more than next year as well. And I think a Rudy Gobert trade is very 25, 26 focused in a way that's not overly exciting for me as far as the future of this team, but will be maybe the most fun recording a podcast on a week-to-week basis next year as far as actually talking about wins. Yeah,
I don't want to do that. Well,
yeah. So I'd rather have multiple picks. I think
give
is
me any of the mystery boxes, I guess. Has Tyson Chandler's name been brought up in any of these Gobert discussions yet? If we're talking about Suns history,
the Suns signing Tyson Chandler right on the downswing of his career.
How old was he when he signed that contract?
Probably
he was
about
30,
the same age. Yeah,
he was 33 years old. I looked it up today. Mm-hmm. And do you remember Tyson? Now, to be fair, I don't blame Tyson for this. Like, he thought that maybe LaMarcus Aldridge was coming. Remember they signed him, and then a day later, McDonough brought him into the meeting room to do a pitch with LaMarcus Aldridge. That would have been a fun team. It probably wouldn't have gone like past the second round of the playoffs or even the first round, but it would have been a fun team because Marcus Aldridge was still good for a couple years with San Antonio there. So I don't blame Tyson for the fact that like he joined the Suns, and then because LaMarcus Aldridge didn't come and Dragic had requested a trade and all this other stuff, they weren't good. Brandon Knight sucked, and Booker was a rookie, and Marcus Morris was choking Archie Goodwin on the bench or whatever else was happening at that time, and they just weren't a good team. But like Tyson was, for all of his veteran presence and whatever, which I would argue, Gobert doesn't even have. His calming presence in the locker room. He was only good for the first year of that contract. And by the end of that contract, we were begging. I mean, they bought him out and he went to the Lakers.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. I want to say Rudy is in like a slightly better place with his body than Tyson Chandler as a 33-year-old. But it's an easy name to bring up because both guys won Defensive Player of the Year. Both guys were just entirely reliant on being rim runners who just set screens and go for lobs.
And you'd be putting a much better team around Rudy Gobert this year, even than that Suns team, which I know this current Suns team is not overly exciting. That Suns team was awful. The one great moment.
Yeah, but I feel like
moment that Tyson Chandler had was the game winner. And you have to remember the guy who passed him the ball was Dragon Bender.
Yeah, but that Suns team, so when Tyson first came, it was the season before they drafted
Fair.
Bender
No, you're
and Chris.
Right. Yeah.
And they were trying to win. They said, we've got Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Knight as our backcourt. I guess Booker was a rookie, so he wasn't starting yet. Mm-hmm. And Tyson Chandler and maybe Markieff. I don't remember exactly. Someone will have to go back and look.
Yeah, Markieff Morris was on the team, yeah.
I want to say was solid still. Like, they thought that team could compete. They could not compete.
Yeah.
And Brandon Knight then would be Bradley Beal now, and Tyson Chandler then would be Rudy Gobert now. So there are some scary parallels if you were to build a team like that in 2025.
Let's talk about Houston. I mean, we could, unless you have anything else. Actually, since we're on Mini, let's just talk about Minnesota a little bit. Because Gambo said that they offered Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, and then some combination of either Terrence Shannon or Rob Dillingham, plus the 17th overall pick in this coming draft. So Gobert, Dante, one young player who has, I would say, middling potential. Not not like super high potential, but not necessarily like he's definitely going to be bad. If you just pick one of those two that you like more. And the 17th overall pick, which is of course higher than the Suns currently have, and they don't have any other picks to offer. So it's not necessarily that they're holding out assets here. That's what they have. They have that pick. And, so this to me is the most let's try and be good right away trade. And I think, they could be relatively good right away if they ended up doing this trade. Dante, I think, is probably, he's what Grayson Allen was in the previous season, not last season, but the one before that, essentially. And probably a better shooter in that he's so great at shooting on the move. Gobert obviously would be the starting center immediately and probably be the best defensive player I think that Devin Booker has ever played with, and obviously raise the level of defense, assuming he can stay healthy at his age. And then of course you can talk about the potential of Terrence Shannon or Rob Dillingham. We don't need to get into that right now. If the Suns end up making this trade, we can really get into it. But yeah, what do you think?
It's I mean, there's a reason. So I can see it from both sides. There's no reason to be excited by that package if you're a Suns fan, because Gobert does exactly what he said he would do. He raises the floor, but not the ceiling. Dillingham, I just don't think is good. I mean, he didn't play much last year, and he's so young, but he didn't look good in his minutes. Terrence Shannon looked better, but Terrence Shannon is like 25, so is he even a young player? Maybe he's 24. But he was really old when he got drafted. And then the 17th pick is the 17th pick, right? It's not 9, 10, or 14 even. So the reason I say I understand it from both sides is because also, like you're saying, I don't think Minnesota is holding anything back in that offer. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a low ball. I'm not even sure if it makes Minnesota better. Honest to God, I'm not sure it makes Minnesota better because Rudy is good. And I don't know how KD fits next to Ant and Julius Randle.
Right.
And at the same time, it's not exciting for the Suns. So it just kind of feels like an awkward fit, for both sides.
Yeah, there's been some thought that the Timberwolves are selling this to their fans as like retooling around young players. Except that includes Kevin Durant, who's one of the oldest players in the NBA. I don't know if you can count it as that. I guess you could say getting rid of Gobert, who is in his 30s, counts as getting rid of an older player, and then maybe signing Naz Reid and just starting Naz Reid with Kevin Durant. That could be something that you could sell to your team. By the way, Randall has a player option. He could decline it. He could take it. Like, I don't really know what he's going to do there. Maybe it depends on the type of trade that is made here. Is there something they have that could make this more exciting for you? Because, like, assuming McDaniels is off the table, which based on the offer, I think it's a pretty safe assumption. Like, if they said Gobert, McDaniels, nothing else, no pick.
Reed can't even be traded right now, correct?
No, maybe he has to.
He has an
opt in,
option
right?
that he hasn't. Has he exercised his option yet? We're talking about doing this trade before the draft. So yeah. I think Reed is off the table. I think McDaniels is off the table. So yeah, there's nothing else here. I mean, what else could you want?
I just find a third team for Dante that could get this on something interesting. Like, I don't really. Or just trade Gobert somewhere else, which we've done
trade Gobert,
on this podcast.
Or trade Gobert for... Yeah, do you feel better about this trade if it's not Gobert, but it's Austin Reeves?
Not entirely. Like, maybe Austin Reeves and a Lakers pick could make it a little more interesting. Or like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and a pick. Do you think they'd do that? So we're talking the Suns get back a Lakers future pick, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Dante DiVincenzo, and then Dillingham.
It's a lot of talent. It's not any... I know it's hard to make the perfect trade, and you're just
There's two picks there at least.
None of the size or grit that we've talked about is there.
Rui's pretty big.
Rui doesn't play with grit.
Yeah.
And
Reeves Rui was good last year. I'm going to give him credit.
Reeves plays with grit insofar as he flops like...
He draws contact.
Like a warrior, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's... Dillingham is like 160 pounds soaking wet, so he's not the guy either. It's
you get
hard.
2 picks.
It's really hard.
In that potential offer. So, Lakers would be good, I think. Since we're on offers that were out there, also said Toronto, who is the, Minnesota. Minnesota's a wild card team in that KD has not said he wants to live there. Toronto is a wild card team as well in that it doesn't make sense for them to want KD, but they seem to be in these negotiations anyway. It just seems like
I think as karma for requesting specifically to go to a place with no income tax, the Suns should send him to Toronto, where he would most definitely pay the highest rate of income tax against his will. I think they should do that 100%.
Supposedly, they offered some combination of Pirtle, the number 9 overall pick, which you mentioned earlier, and either R.J. Barrett or Emmanuel Quickly. Not both. Although, if you take Pirtle out of it, you could potentially build a trade that's R.J. Quickly and number 9.
Sure, but you want Pirtle in this trade
expand it,
because you want a center upgrade over Nick Richards. And by the way, what the hell is Gambo on talking about? Pirtle is like not a backup center or he's a backup center on good teams. That is not true.
Pirtle is good. What do you think Pirtle is like? What as a starting center? Where would he rank? 22nd?
Yeah, I mean, maybe higher, like maybe 17th or something. I don't know. I don't have the ranking of all that's starting to go very Bill Simmons on you guys right now. Is he 17th or is he 22nd? I don't have the ranking of all
somewhere
starting centers
between
in front of me.
17 and 22nd, right?
Well, this is a guy who averaged 15, 10, 3 assists, a steal, and a block a game last year. And Like that, yeah. That's not a backup center. It's just not. It's a reasonable starting center, far and away an upgrade over Nick Richards. So you definitely want Pirtle to be in this deal. Let me just confirm real quick. What is he making? Yeah, he's making 19 and a half
I'm not saying I would
for the
want
next
Pirtle.
2 years. That's good value.
I think that if you could find a trade where you get both RJ and Quickly, which salary-wise it gets complicated. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'd rather have that personally. And
I don't understand. Gambo was crapping on this package on the radio, and I think it would be great. I mean, the 9th pick and Pirtle, who's an upgrade at starting center. Who would you rather have between Quickly and Barrett? I think that's an interesting conversation.
Have gone back and forth mentally between those two guys a little bit. And I think RJ, for his skill set at his size, can actually be kind of interesting next to Devin Booker. I think Quickly is better.
I'd rather have Quickly.
Yeah,
I'd rather have, and let me explain why. I think RJ is kind of one of those like big for nothing wings. Like, yeah, he's big, and okay, I will say I appreciate a guy who. How tall is RJ? Like 6'6", 6'7"?
I think 6'7", probably. Yeah,
I appreciate a guy.
I've described him as the LeBron James of Josh Jacksons.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
You have to appreciate a guy who can see over the top of a defense and like has made leaps as a playmaker and yeah, all of that is good. But he's a 6'7" guy who doesn't really play defense, has never had a positive impact on defense in his career, and I just don't see it happening. So if I could choose between the two guys, Quickly takes a lot of threes. And they kind of,
he's
the
fast.
Raptors, they kind of unleashed him as an offensive engine a little bit this year. He averaged like 6 assists a game. I got to pull it up. But it was good. He averaged 5.8 assists to 1.8 turnovers. But if you look at the per 36, 7.5 assists to 2.3 per 36. Those are good numbers. Plus, you get a guy who's going to shoot like 12 threes a game on a high percentage. And then instead of getting RJ to plug in at small forward, who's not going to play defense, you could just get a guy who's RJ's sized, but actually plays defense and gives you the grit that they're sort of talking about. And I think I feel better about that. Not that RJ's bad. I would be happy with RJ, Pirtle, and 9. I think that's still a good package.
Yeah, think about it this way.
But Quickly's better.
Quickly, Pirtle, and Cedric Coward. Like, think about the trade that way. If you say he's actually going in the top 10. Now,
I think that's awesome. You get 3-point volume. You get a do-it-all role player in Coward, who obviously could end up being very good. But like even from year one, I think he can contribute. And you get a starting center upgrade.
And there's some level of future there, but not a ton. Like, obviously, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're listening to this going, how are they happy with a trade like that? Yeah, of course I would want more than one pick in these trades, but these are what we're going off of here.
I guess if you can get like a 2031 first-round pick for Toronto, like...
Even protected or something, yeah.
You need to give me something...
Protected top 7 or something, yeah.
You need to give me something that's just not like... all leveraged on this year, this one draft. Just give me something that I can forget about, or it's in the back of my mind for 7 years. And then 7 years from now, maybe Brian Gregory will be long gone by then. I don't even know. But one day we'll be thanking you, Brian Gregory, saying, oh, it's 2032, and here's a first-round pick gifted to us from Toronto. Maybe it's even a good pick if it's unprotected. Thank you, Brian Gregory, for that Kevin Durant trade all those years ago. I want something like that. Yep. Just as a little sweetener. But I think
when Brian Gregory is coaching Grand Canyon University, you're like, thank you, Brian Gregory.
Thank you, Brian Gregory. You start with 2 high caliber players. Quickly, by the way, is on a flat contract. He's like signed for the next 5 years at like $30 million a year. I think that's good value for a guy like him in his prime, and is only going to get better.
It's not the worst. It's shout out Masai, by the way, for just being the wild card in all of this, giving the Suns the opportunity to pressure teams a little bit more and try to figure out if they can get more out of them, because I think that is kind of the most important thing for the Suns, to have a team like this that can put pressure on them. Let's talk about Houston now. We briefly touched on Houston, but I just want to make sure that we talk about them directly as far as what they can and can't offer. It's an interesting conversation, right? So they have the 10th overall pick. We've made a ton of Houston trades. I think Houston, frankly, they should be offering more. I think there's a chance they could make the finals with Kevin Durant on their team next year. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. They'd have to make a couple other moves to be, to be great. And I'm talking even if they give up a little bit of talent for them. Nothing's exciting about Jalen Green, but the Suns are supposedly asking around the league who could be interested in Jalen Green. Supposedly Charlotte, Brooklyn, some other teams have come up in this conversation about teams that could be interested in Jalen Green if he does get traded. Charlotte being, of course, the most hilarious option. You're starting with Jalen Green. We're just assuming that's where you start. Now, what we talked about a long time is Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, the 10th overall pick. You start with that. Hopefully you get a future first-round pick. I think they should do that personally. Like, even if the Suns said we're only doing it for that, I think they should do that because they could be really awesome next year. They keep most of their talent. They're replacing essentially Jabari Smith Jr. with Kevin Durant, and Jalen Green was the worst player on their team to play minutes. So they're taking out, addition by subtraction with Jalen Green and replacing Jabari Smith Jr. with Kevin Durant. This is a team who couldn't score in the playoffs. They're putting up scores in the playoffs that started with an 8. So yeah, I think they should do it.
I just cannot imagine that being a bridge too far for Houston. Like what else they think is going to be out there.
Even if it's one of their picks. I'm not even saying give the Suns in fact, there's some value in one of their picks in case it all goes really badly.
I want our picks. I'm going to hold a little bit more firm on that. I want our picks if I can get them.
I'm just saying, like, the places Kevin Durant
I don't even know.
It doesn't always go well. That's all I'm saying.
I don't even know if Jabari Smith is good. I just don't. Like, we talk about these guys. Khalil Ware has played one NBA season. He's played 1,500 minutes. It's reasonable to not know if he's good. I don't know if Jabari Smith is good. He's played 3 NBA seasons, and I have to pay him next year. Yeah. And this is the guy who's the sticking point for you on the trade. This is why it hasn't happened
already. And he plays the same position as Kevin Durant. Like, Kevin Durant's going to play. Kevin Durant plays 40 minutes a game. That's who he is. I really don't get it either. And yeah, of course they can play together. I'm not saying that's impossible, but like, it's kind of weird that they're being, and look, maybe they're holding on to assets saying they're hoping somebody else becomes available later. Fine. But like, things can go wrong for teams pretty quickly. I bring up the original OKC Kevin Durant team often. They made the finals very early and they lost to the Miami Heat, and everyone said, oh, they'll be back. Now they are. Kevin Durant's been on 4 teams since then.
Yeah.
It's nothing is guaranteed with these young teams. It goes south a little faster than you can anticipate, and it's going to get incredibly complicated when you try to pay these guys with the second. It's a hard cap. I think it was Zach Lowe that said it. We're just going to call it the hard cap now. It's a hard cap. You can't pay all of them. You hit that, you're done. So I don't know. I think they should really try to be good. OKC, look, they're probably going to win the finals. We've talked about this multiple times. I hope, especially now with the Halliburton news, really sucks that he seems to be pretty injured, was awful in the last game. But look, one thing goes wrong with that team. If it's, even if it's Jalen Williams going down, they're not infallible if something happens. And you put your team in the best position to beat them. This is going to be... I'm just... And I know I'm arguing this entirely on their side, which is a funny thing to do. But, and I want them to do it because I want the Suns to get more assets. But I think it's crazy that they're less willing to do it than I anticipated. Based on what we think.
OKC is going to be, the 7th straight distinct NBA team to win a championship? It's some record, right?
Yeah.
Is it 7 in a row? Is it 6 in a row?
Something like that. Maybe
it's going to be another team besides OKC next year. Something's going to happen. And I know Tatum went down, and I know the Bucks suck, and I know the Nuggets are a disaster in roster management. Someone's going to rise from the ashes. Probably not the Suns, ironically. But someone's going to do it.
Yeah.
And Houston, you should fucking try. You should try. Why do none of these teams, San Antonio too, why do none of these teams have the courage? And this is why Masai in Toronto is awesome. Toronto, I don't think you guys are winning if you trade for KD. I'll just be the first to say it.
They'd still have more assets to make moves, man. Like, they still have more opportunities to change a team after that.
Are there any teams we haven't covered?
I mean, the Clippers, the chatter on the Clippers has gone down.
That died, right? Yeah.
The Knicks are appearing to be out of it entirely with, I believe it was Mark Spears saying actually Kevin Durant wanted the Knicks and the Knicks said no, which it feels like one of those things where like, you can't fire me, I quit. Which I don't know how true that is, but it was out there. But it doesn't matter. They're out for the Suns' perspectives. We can just say that that's not happening.
But how awesome
honestly,
is
one of the
this
most
that-
complicated ones that you could do anyway. And I think it was just that they said, would you trade KD for Cat? The Suns said no, and they said, never mind, we're not interested anymore.
How awesome is it that multiple teams are pulling out in theory, and this is still like a 5-horse race?
Yeah, we'll see what it is tomorrow. Like, it's genuinely a roller coaster. Like, it's actually kind of hard to know where everything is and like where it stands. It changes by the hour, it feels like.
Do you still want to give your final prediction?
Yeah, I wanted to do, so we've been doing fake trades at the end of every episode. Like, it does feel like this will be our final opportunity to do it. So instead of, for me at least, I tried to say, and I asked Sam to do the same thing. We both prepared one trade for today that we're going to say to each other that is essentially our final prediction for what the trade actually will be. And let me tell you, man, I went back and forth on which team I was going to choose, but I tried to take the rose-colored, orange-colored glasses off a little bit and try to be in some ways realistic and in a lot of ways disappointing for the Suns to figure out what the final trade was going to be. I'll go first if you'd like, since I'm setting it up here. I chose the Houston Rockets.
Oh, so did I. It's gonna be the same fucking trade, but hit me with what you.
I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be.
All right.
The Suns. Okay, the Rockets get Kevin Durant. The Brooklyn Nets get Jalen Green.
It's the same trade.
And the 29th pick. Did you include the 29th pick to Brooklyn?
No, but I did include Brooklyn. It's a 3-team trade. Mine is the same 3 teams.
Okay. And the Suns, in my trade, based on what we know about Brian Gregory, I included Dylan Brooks, Nick Claxton, Cam Whitmore, and the 10th overall pick.
Okay, wait, hold on. I got.
So the Suns end up with Dylan Brooks, Nick Claxton, Cam Whitmore, and the 10th overall pick. The Nets have Jalen Green. We give them the 29th overall pick to take Jalen Green, even though I think Nick Claxton is kind of bad money as well. I'm just saying, what will the Suns have to do to push this over the line? And I'm including the 29th pick going to the Nets just to get it done. I'm not excited about it. I think it would be nice for the Suns to have 2 picks in this draft, but I'm trying to do something that I think could actually happen.
I think yours end up with KD. Yours is probably more realistic than mine. So
I think the Suns want Dylan Brooks. Like, I think there's a chance they're actually like excited about that.
I think first of all, don't make me throw up. I think the Suns want Nick Claxton, and so I also included
Jordan
Claxton.
Ott, by the way, coached Nick Claxton in Brooklyn. Like, I think that's an important thing that we haven't talked about on the podcast.
So I didn't give them the 29th pick, but I didn't take our own 10th pick. Instead, what I did is have Brooklyn give us number 19. Which is obviously less valuable than 10. So I took Claxton, number 19, Jabari Smith, and Reed Shepherd. You might tell me that's unrealistic. I don't care. I'm trying to give us a semblance of a future.
That would be, I think, the version where the Suns end up with some leverage because maybe one of San Antonio or
Toronto
Houston blinks a little bit and starts to offer more. Yeah, and then
so you went Claxton 10, Brooks and Whitmore. I went Claxton 19, Jabari, and Reed Shepherd.
I'll say this to defend my trade: 2 starters. If you start Dylan Brooks, which I think you have to, Claxton obviously starts.
I have 2 starters too.
Yeah, I think you do. Cam Whitmore is obviously some high level potential, and then the 10th overall pick. So you have 2 starters plus 2 assets for the future.
I think in either version of the trade, and yeah, you can call it the low leverage, high leverage versions. First of all, I think it says something that both of us locked in entirely on the same 3 teams. Like, Jalen Green just feels like a Nets move, doesn't he?
Claxton was not good last year, and now is the chance for the Suns to potentially trade for him. It's possible he won't be good this coming year, but like, you have the opportunity to trade for a center who's been good in the NBA and is still young. And potentially buy low. So, yeah. I
think in either version, in your version, they get Brooks and Claxton. I think that's 2 starters. In my version, they get Smith and Claxton. And that could be power forward center.
Yeah.
But in either version, Gregory and Ishbia can come out there in a press conference and say, we got bigger. We got hard-nosed talent, young players.
That's what we wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can say that they got grit, right? Essentially, which is what they're after. Ideally, I don't get me wrong, I want them to have grit. I also want them to have as many future first-round picks as possible in addition to that grit. So all we can do is sit here and pray for a true, authentic bidding war between San Antonio, Houston. Again, thank you to the Toronto Raptors for playing
thank you,
ball.
Masai, for being a weird GM that nobody could ever expect.
That's awesome. Do we even know how many picks Toronto has? Have they traded
I don't think
any
they've
of their
traded
other picks?
much. Yeah, I think really because they probably have some of New York's picks still too, right?
Do they want Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen too? Should we just can we turn them into a contender
Pirtle,
overnight?
RJ, and quickly take all three of them and give them everything and get maybe a Knicks pick with that or something? Yeah, I think now that we've recorded and we're going to post this episode later than we anticipated, later than we normally post, I should say, a trade's probably going to happen soon, right?
Hell yeah. I'm excited. I know people are nervous. I know people are anxious. I have always been kind of in the same boat of understanding that the Suns are in an asset-strapped position. Any path forward that they take is going to be difficult. And yet, and also, like, I don't have a ton of faith in the current front office regime. I know that's not necessarily being fair to them because we need to give them a chance. But, like, let's just be honest.
It's being fair to us as fans.
That press conference was a disaster when Gregory was introduced. It just was. All that being said, I'm just excited. Whatever the future may bring, whichever of these packages they end up taking, I am just ready for a new era of Suns basketball with some defensive competence, some level of young talent. I'm just ready for all of it, man.
I hope they actually get that. I'm in a dark place mentally, so I kind of need
I'm in a more optimistic place than you.
I appreciate that, yeah.
You've been in too much. Can I just say what keeps my spirit high? And if I could recommend something to you, you're down there in the dungeon that is the NBA Twitter group chat. Yeah, and I think you gotta get out of the NBA Twitter group chats a little bit. I am in such an isolated place where all I have to entertain me all day are my own dumb thoughts, and it just keeps my spirit a lot higher than yours in a time like this, I think.
I think that
because you have these people ganging up on you, dude. I already know what's going on.
They don't. In fact, I'm probably a bit of a downer in there in general myself. So it is what it is. We'll be here whenever the trade goes down. We might not be able to record till the nighttime, depending on when the trade actually happens. But the day of the trade, we'll be prepared to record. If anything happens in the next few days, you'll get a podcast from us that day. So yeah, fingers crossed that the old man can pull it off and actually get something good for this team. We appreciate, of course, you all listening. If nothing happens in the next few days, a normal Patreon podcast will come out in the next few days. If you'd like to join patreon.com/thetimeline. Thank you to those who have joined in the last few weeks. We appreciate you. Sam, you got anything else before we go?
Let's kick some ass.
All right. Thanks, everyone.